The SUV pulled up to the modest ranch house. Barbara was already frowning before she opened the door. Barbara walked toward the house with the measured step of someone entering a place she considered beneath her. Mia and Lucas trailed behind. Frank opened the door with his usual smile, arms wide for Mia and Lucas. They ran into his embrace.
This house is too embarrassing. The kids are used to better.
Frank said nothing. His knuckles whitened on the doorframe. Mia and Lucas exchanged a glance. They knew what was happening, and they hated it. The drive back was silent, except for the sound of the engine and Lucas's soft sniffle.
Don't forget, Grandpa loves you both, always.
He watched them disappear into their house, then drove to the only place he could think of, his attorney's office. He parked and sat for a moment, then walked inside with a face made of stone. The office was quiet, lit by a single desk lamp. Frank sat heavily across from Whitfield.
She said, "My house is too embarrassing, that the kids are used to better. She's stopping their visits."
What do you want to do, Frank?
I want everything to go to Mia and Lucas. Everything, not a dime to Barbara.
An irrevocable trust would guarantee that. Once signed, it can't be undone.
Draw it up. All of it, the house, the investments, the commercial property.
Whitfield opened a file and began listing the assets. The total came to just over $3 million.
Make sure she can't touch a cent. This is for Mia and Lucas alone. They'll access it when they're older.
Frank picked up the pen and signed the preliminary documents without a single hesitation. When he walked out, the folder was in Whitfield's hands, and the first steps were taken. A week later, the final trust documents waited on Whitfield's desk. Frank sat down without a greeting.
Everything is ready. The trust is irrevocable. Mia and Lucas become the sole beneficiaries.
And Barbara gets nothing. Good. What about their ages? They'll be too young when I am gone.
Full control at 25, but educational distributions can begin at 18, straight to the school.
Frank signed each page with a steady hand. The pen pressed hard, leaving no room for doubt. That evening, at his kitchen table, Frank wrote a letter to Barbara. His words were calm, final. You told me they were too good for my house. I made sure my house will be good enough for their future. He sealed 2 more envelopes for Mia and Lucas to be held at their school until their 18th birthdays.
They'll be delivered personally by the school administrator on the exact date. It's already arranged.
Frank walked home, dropped Barbara's letter in the mailbox, and waited for the storm he knew would come. 2 days later, the letter arrived at Barbara's upscale home. She tore it open quickly. Her eyes scanned the page, her face shifting from confusion to white-hot fury.
How dare you cut me out after everything I've done for you?
Frank held the phone calmly, the receiver pressed to his ear in the quiet kitchen.
You told me they were too good for my house. I made sure my house is good enough for their future.
You, self-righteous old man. You'll never see them again. I'll make sure of it.
The line went dead. Barbara had hung up. Frank set the phone down gently. He didn't argue, didn't call back. His gaze drifted to the framed photo on the mantel. Mia and Lucas smiling, a lifetime ago. He knew this was only the beginning. The battlefield was drawn. He tried calling the next day and the day after. The calls went straight to voicemail. A birthday gift for Mia was returned, unopened, with a return to sender stamp on the box. At the park, Frank spotted them. Barbara was pushing Lucas on the swing when she noticed him. She grabbed Mia's arm and pulled her toward the car, not looking back, but Mia twisted around, her eyes finding Frank across the grass, confused and sad.
She doesn't understand. She thinks I abandoned them.
Frank turned and walked away, his heart heavier than it had ever been.
They'll forget me. Little by little, they'll forget, and Barbara will make sure of it.
That was the day he understood. Barbara would never let him near them. Not now. Not ever. He sat down with his stationery and began to write letters. They would not read for years. The words poured onto the paper. How he missed them, the small things he remembered. Each finished letter went into a wooden box on the shelf. The box grew heavier every month. He kept the house spotless and the garden thriving. Tomatoes, beans, marigolds. Life went on.
Some days I talk to them out loud. I tell them about the garden. I hope they remember.
He kept their photos on the mantel, dusted every morning. A new school picture of each joined them. He placed them where the sun would hit in the morning. A silent vigil he never missed.
These letters are all I have to give them now. I hope they'll understand someday.
The box became a testament to his refusal to let go. 47 letters in the first year alone. At night, he'd stand at the window, looking at nothing, waiting for a car that never came.
Barbara can lock every door, but she can't stop the calendar. Mia turns 18 in 7 years.
Frank returned to Whitfield's office with a leather satchel under his arm, heavier than it looked.
I need to know this. Trust can't be broken. No matter what Barbara tries, Mia and Lucas must be protected.
It's airtight, Frank. Fully irrevocable. Even if Barbara hired the best lawyers, she couldn't touch it.
He opened the satchel and withdrew 2 thick envelopes, sealed with red wax, each bearing their names.
What are these? You've already prepared the official trust documents.
These are my voice. They'll tell Mia and Lucas everything their mother has kept from them.
I'll place them with the trust papers in my safe. They'll be delivered together on the exact birthday.
Frank slid the envelopes across the polished desk, his hand steady despite the weight of the moment. Whitfield locked them in the wall safe and turned back with a solemn nod. The satchel hung empty on his shoulder as he stepped outside. There was nothing more to do but wait. 3 years passed without a word. Then Frank saw them in the store, and time stopped. At the far end of the cereal aisle stood Barbara, Lucas, and a teenage girl he scarcely recognized. It was Mia. Older, her hair longer, but the same eyes that used to light up for him. Barbara saw him first. Without hesitation, she took Mia's wrist and pulled her toward the front, but Mia twisted. Looking back over her shoulder, for a fragile second, their eyes met.
She didn't look at me like a stranger. She looked at me like something she'd lost.
Then Barbara tugged harder, and the group vanished around the end of the aisle. Frank didn't move. He just stood there, amidst the shoppers, a solitary old man.
That glance was enough. She didn't smile or wave, but she looked, and that meant she remembered.
He left the store with nothing but that glance, and it was enough. The years blurred into seasons. Spring flowers, winter snow, the cycle never stopped. Every birthday, Frank mailed a card, and every birthday, it returned with red stamps and no word.
She blocks even a paper envelope, but I'll keep sending them until I can't write anymore.
The wooden box overflowed with unsent letters. He bought another, and that one filled too. In winter, he'd sit by the window with his pen, watching the bare branches, writing to them,
Only 3 more years until Mia turns 18. Then 2, then 1. Time is all I have left.
The calendar pages turned faster as the date neared. Months became weeks, then days to count. Frank grew thinner. His steps slowed, but his resolve never wavered.
I'll see 18 on that calendar. For both of them. Then the letters will speak for me.
He marked the date with a red circle and whispered into the room. Soon, a sudden pain gripped his chest among the tomatoes. He sank to his knees, the garden spinning. Hours later, Frank lay in a hospital bed, wires connecting him to a monitor that beeped steadily. A mild heart attack, the doctor said. He was lucky, but his body had spoken.
Get Whitfield here. Now, I need to record something.
Whitfield arrived that afternoon, his briefcase replaced by a small camcorder.
Mia, Lucas, if you are watching this, then I didn't make it to your 18th birthdays. Everything I have is yours. The trust explains it. Your mother won't tell you. I love you.
The camera kept recording as Frank's voice broke, but he finished every word he needed.
I'll add this to the letters. They'll know, Frank, one way or another.
Frank nodded and closed his eyes. The beeping machine, the only voice left in the room. Frank came home from the hospital with a new fragility. His steps were slower, but his mind raced. The phone rang. He picked it up. The neighbor's voice was cheerful and unaware. She mentioned seeing Mia and Lucas at the grocery store. Sweet kids, she said. They told her their grandfather had died years ago. Frank's grip tightened on the receiver. His knuckles went white, just like that day at the door.
Barbara told them I am dead. She buried me in their minds so she could keep them.
He set the phone down without saying goodbye. The silence in the room was deafening.
All these years they've been mourning me, and I've been writing to ghosts.
He looked at the framed photos on the mantel, then at the calendar with Mia's circled birthday.
When those letters arrive, they'll know the truth. Then we'll see who is really dead to them.
The lie was monstrous, but it also clarified everything. Now he knew exactly what his letters had to undo. Frank sat at the kitchen table that same evening, the pen trembling in his hand.
This letter must be stronger than the lies. It has to reach them when the official one does.
He wrote about the day. Barbara told him the house was embarrassing, about the trust, about the years of silence.
I've loved you both since the day you were born. Everything I've done was to make sure you'd have a future.
He told them Barbara had been lying. He was alive, and he had never stopped waiting. He sealed both envelopes with red wax, pressing his thumb into it, an old-fashioned mark of permanence. He drove to Whitfield's office the next morning, the envelopes wrapped in a plain cloth in his jacket.
These are the truth letters. They need to be delivered with the trust papers. No matter what. No matter if I am gone.
I'll add them to the safe. They'll be opened alongside the official trust notification.
Frank watched them disappear into the safe, then turned and left. The letters were out of his hands, but they were finally armed with the truth. Frank stepped inside the quiet house and walked straight to the kitchen table. On the table lay the note he'd written before the hospital. He uncapped a pen and added 3 words, "Welcome home," in the living room. He dusted the mantel and replaced the old framed photos with newer ones.
If they ever walk through that door, they'll see their faces and know I never stopped loving them.
He filled a small vase with marigolds from the garden and set it beside the note. Then he stood at the front window, searching the street, willing a car that wasn't coming. He hung a new picture on the wall. Mia at 15, Lucas at 12, their expressions guarded but still familiar.
Your mother said this house was too embarrassing. I made it a place you could come home to.
He turned off the lamp and sat in the dark kitchen, listening to the clock tick toward the date circled in red. The house was ready. Every corner waited. Every surface whispered their names. A few months before Mia's birthday, Frank drove to the high school and walked through the front doors. In the office, the administrator pulled up the record and confirmed the sealed envelope was still locked away to be delivered on the exact date.
Safe for now. Only a few more months, and she'll hold my words in her hands.
As he left, he passed the gymnasium. A banner stretched across the hallway. Class of 2027. He stopped and stared at it. Mia would graduate this year. She was almost 18.
Soon. She'll know the truth soon.
He drove home and went straight to the kitchen calendar. The red circle seemed to pulse. He sat at the table, the trust folder in front of him, and traced the circle with a finger.
I just need to hold on a little longer. Just a few more months.
The mechanism was set. All he had to do was remain alive long enough to see it trigger. Frank's condition plummeted without warning. He collapsed in the kitchen, and the ambulance lights washed the walls red. He woke in the same hospital bed, the same beeping monitor. But this time, the faces of the doctors were tighter.
I am running out of time, and I know it. Whitfield, I need you to listen carefully.
Whitfield arrived within the hour, his face grim. Frank told him the date was too close to risk. With a shaking hand, Frank wrote a final letter on a single sheet of hospital stationery. Mia, if you get this, and I am still alive, come to the hospital. I need to see you. Please don't let it be too late.
If it looks like you won't make it, I'll personally take the letter from the school and bring it to her.
The heart monitor beeped a little too fast, a little too irregular. Frank's body was betraying him.
Just a few more days. Just hold on.
He closed his eyes and willed the machines to keep singing his name until the calendar caught up against every medical protest. Frank stabilized just enough to demand his own discharge.
Home. I need to be home before tomorrow. She'll look for the address on the letter, not a hospital room.
He shuffled into the house that afternoon, a portable oxygen machine humming beside him. He set up a chair by the front window. The trust folder sat on the table nearby. The phone rang. Whitfield's voice was calm.
The school confirmed delivery for tomorrow morning, Frank. Mia will get the letter on her birthday, exactly as planned.
Thank you. Now, all I have to do is stay alive long enough to open the door.
He hung up and turned toward the window. The street was empty, but his eyes never moved from it.
Tomorrow, Mia, you'll know I never left you. Please don't let Barbara stop you from coming.
The last light of dusk fell across his face. He sat motionless, waiting for a car that was finally on its way. Morning came cold and clear. Frank was already at the kitchen table, the trust folder open beside his coffee. He checked the clock for the 5th time in 10 minutes. The red circle on the calendar seemed to hum.
It's today. 7 years. She'll open it today.
Across town, Mia walked through the school doors, a senior on her 18th birthday, unaware of what was waiting. The PA system crackled her name. She was called to the main office. She signed for a thick envelope, bearing her grandfather's handwriting, the looping cursive she hadn't seen since she was 11.
That's Grandpa's writing, but he's dead.
The secretary told her it had been kept for her since childhood. She should open it privately. Mia stared at the envelope, her hands trembling. Back in the kitchen, Frank sat motionless, waiting for a car he desperately hoped was on its way. Mia found an empty stairwell and tore open the envelope with shaking fingers.
My dear Mia, if you are reading this, you've just turned 18. I am your grandfather, and I am not dead.
She read about the trust, the $3.1 million, the years of returned letters, and then the part about Barbara's lie.
He's alive. Mom told us he died, and he's been waiting for me.
She drove straight home, found Barbara in the kitchen, and thrust the letter in her face.
Where did you get that?
You lied. He's alive, and you stole 7 years from us.
Barbara took a step back, but Mia was already grabbing the keys off the counter. The engine roared to life. She didn't look back. Frank's clock ticked. He didn't know it yet, but his waiting was almost over. The morning quiet shattered. As a car engine grew louder, Frank rose from his chair and pulled back the curtain. The car stopped in the driveway. A young woman got out, holding a white envelope, her face tear-streaked.
It's Mia. She's here. She actually came.
He shuffled toward the front door, his heart hammering, the oxygen tube trailing behind him. He pulled open the door just as she reached the porch. She looked up, and her face went pale, the letter shaking in her hand.
Grandpa, you are alive. I thought you were dead.
She dropped the envelope and threw herself into his arms, sobs racking her body. He caught her, holding tight, and they stood on the porch clutching each other as the years of silence poured out. He whispered against her hair, "I never stopped waiting for you." Then he took her hand and led her inside, the screen door closing softly behind them. Frank led Mia to the kitchen table, where the trust folder still lay open beside the note that read, "Welcome home."
Why didn't you tell me sooner? For 7 years, I thought you were dead.
I tried everything. Barbara blocked every letter, every call. This trust was the only key I had left.
He slid the trust papers across the table. Mia's eyes widened at the numbers. $3.1 million, all for her and Lucas.
He didn't do this out of spite. He did this because he never stopped loving us.
I made sure my house was good enough for your future. It was never about punishing her.
Mia looked down at the photo of younger Lucas. "What about him?" she whispered.
His letter is at the school, waiting for his 18th birthday. I'll be here when he's ready.
I'll bring him. As soon as I can, I'll bring him here, and we'll all be together again.
They sat in the warm lamplight, the house filled with a quiet it had not known in 7 years. Mia picked up her phone and dialed Lucas. Across the table, Frank listened.
Lucas, Grandpa's alive. He left us everything, the trust, the house, all of it.
She handed the phone to Frank. He took it with a trembling hand.
Lucas, it's me. I've missed you every day. Come home when you are ready.
The call was brief, but when it ended, Frank set the phone down and rose. He retrieved the wooden box from the shelf and placed it on the table. Mia opened it. Hundreds of envelopes, each with her name or Lucas's. Frank pulled out a letter and began to read, his voice low and steady.
I wrote these, hoping you'd someday know. They're yours now, and so is this.
He pressed a set of keys into her palm. She promised to come back weekly with Lucas, then hugged him tightly. On Saturday morning, Mia's car pulled in again. Beside her sat Lucas, rigid and silent. Frank watched from the window, his pulse quickening for the second time that week. The front door swung open, and Lucas stepped onto the porch, his eyes darting everywhere, but at him for a long moment. The boy just stood there. Then Frank simply opened his arms. Lucas moved slowly, then faster, until they collided in an embrace that held 7 hollow years.
Don't worry, son. We have time. All the time you need.
That afternoon, Mia snapped a photo of the 3 of them on the couch. Later, she hung it on the wall. Frank stood before it, a hand over his chest, not from the pain this time, but from the quiet victory. The house that had been called too embarrassing was now too full of laughter to ever be quiet again, and, in the golden evening light, Frank settled into his chair, the keys shining on the hook, and smiled.